Hey guys, at this time every year there are many entrance ceremonies and graduation ceremonies from all sorts of educational, or maybe all educational facilities in Japan. So, interestingly, from kindergarten, when kids enter kindergarten, they have an entrance ceremony. And when they finish kindergarten, they have a graduation ceremony. So you can graduate from kindergarten with a master's in finger painting or something. And then they have an entrance ceremony to elementary school, and they have a graduation ceremony from elementary school, and then they have an entrance ceremony to junior high school, and a graduation ceremony to junior high school, an entrance ceremony for high school, and graduation ceremony for high school, entrance ceremony for university, and graduation ceremony for university. So it's all a bit serious, and it's really, really formal and really, really solemn and really, really serious. So today we went to a graduation ceremony from an elementary school, and so I wanted to make this video and talk to you guys about it while it was still fresh, right? Because I'm sitting there, I've been to a few of these things, and I'm sitting there just thinking, this is a video. This is a video. There's so much stuff about it. Probably normal, isn't it? In a lot of countries, graduation ceremonies from high school would be pretty normal. Graduation ceremonies from university would be pretty normal. The entrance ceremonies are an interesting thing, but it's typical in Japan. If you join any group, it's always a big deal. So, you know, imagine an entrance ceremony for kids starting kindergarten, right? And a graduation ceremony for kids finishing kindergarten. It's an amazing thing. And they're all taken just as seriously, whether it's an entrance ceremony for a kindergarten or graduation from a junior high school. It's all equally solemn, right? And so I'll describe today's graduation ceremony from a elementary school, but you can pretty much imagine they're all the same. I've been to a bunch of these things for different educational facilities, and they're all basically the same. So I turned up at the junior high school, and the first thing you do is go to the big genkan. They have these giant genkan, giant entrance areas where you go through the door and where the kids put their shoes, and they have big banks of like boxes or shelves with little boxes for the kids to put their shoes in. And so that we have to do it too. So we turn up, oh yeah, back off a little bit. Everyone wears a suit. So all the dudes, all the men, all the fathers wear suits. And all the ladies either wear, there's a sort of a standard suit. It's sort of like a uniform for men and for ladies, but the dudes all wear sort of the same sort of suit. And the ladies all wear a very sort of similar ladies suit or kimono. So sometimes the ladies wear kimono. And so we turn up all very seriously dressed, walk into these genkan, take off our dress shoes and put them in these boxes where the kids usually put their shoes, or on top of where the kids put their shoes. Sometimes, at some facilities, you actually have to put your shoes in a plastic bag and carry them. And then a lot of people, when they take their shoes off, will put slippers on. So then what we have is a bunch of adults, very formally dressed, very, very formally dressed, shuffling around the corridors in slippers, right? And nobody bats an eyelid. Here's 200 maybe formally dressed adults shuffling around the corridors of the school in slippers, right? It's just normal in Japan. Nobody thinks twice. Of course you're wearing slippers in school. So then you shuffle in your slippers down the corridors to the hall, a big hall, and they have chairs set up, and you receive a map. We received a map some time ago that showed us, okay, now in the front is where the graduating kids are going to sit, and behind them one parent can sit. There's two banks of seats, and one parent is allowed to sit in those seats, and then there's some seats further back, and the other parent has to sit there. So both parents can't sit together up the front or in this front bank of seats. only one parent can sit there, and the other parent has to sit up the back, right? So have I skipped a bit? No, I don't think so. So we walk in, and we already have the plan. We already have the map that shows us where we're allowed to sit. So we walk in, and the one parent goes and sits at the front, and the other parent goes and sits at the back, and then everybody sits there, and it's all really solemn. You don't see any smiling or not a lot of chatting. I mean, sometimes some of the parents know each other. I mean, we all sort of recognise each other, but there isn't a lot of chatting going on. You know, there'll be occasionally some parents will be chatting a little bit with each other, but usually not. Usually everyone just sort of sits there very formally and very quietly, and they don't usually chat much. And you sort of nod. You sort of recognise all these other parents from previous things, and you know, you sort of nod, and that's about it. They don't say this. Everyone sits there looking very formal and very uncomfortable and very solemn, right? And then so when all the parents are seated, and okay, the time came, and today it was 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock comes, and everybody's sitting there all very formally seated, and then someone says on the microphone, in Japanese of course, "Stand up," right? And everybody stands up. All the parents, all the adults, all the parents and all the teachers. Everybody stands up, like just very like a military, very military style. Stand up, and everybody stands up really quickly, and sort of stands there very formally. And then in come the dignitaries, right? And this is the same. This is the same for the kindergarten and the high school, and everybody's the same, right? The dignitaries come in, all very formally, in a procession of dignitaries, right? And that will be the city mayor, the president of the PTA, and then just sundry other dignitaries, like VIP people, right? And they'll all come in very formally and go to where their area is at the front. It's always in the front best position. And all old men, by the way, except one older lady. There was one old lady, and there was about maybe 8 old men, right? And as I say all the time on these videos, it's the old men that run Japan, right? And here they were, all these old dudes, and they come in and they get to where they're supposed to be, and while they're standing up, they bow, and then all the parents and all the teachers bow, big, deep, very formal bow, and then the dignitaries sit down, and then we're allowed to sit down, and then they announce that the kids are, you know, here comes the first class of the graduating class, so that, you know, they'll have 4. I think today there was 3. There was in that grade, in grade 6, there was 3 classes. So the first class came in, and they came in 2 at a time, and so two came in. The teachers came in first, all very formally up, and stood in front of where the kids were going to sit, and then in came the kids 2 at a time, very, very formally, like a slow march with like 10 meters in between each pair, and they came in very formally. And when they get to where they're going, they stop and they turn, very military, right? Like right turn sort of thing, boom, and then they go very formally to where they're supposed to sit, and they sit down, and the next 2 come, and the next 2 come, and the next 2 come, very, very formally, right? And then until they all end, because that takes a long time, because they're sort of doing a slow march, and they're 20 meters apart, 2 at a time, so that took quite a long time to get them all in and sitting down. And then what happened next? Principal of the school gave a speech, and then, oh yeah, the speech thing was interesting. Everybody who made a speech, the principal made a speech, the mayor made a speech, the president of the PTA made a speech, and all of them, when they made their speeches, did exactly the same thing. They went up to the podium, they reached in their pocket, they pulled out a white envelope, they put it on the podium, they opened it up, they took out a piece of paper, they folded it out, so Japanese style, right, like a parchment, so folded back and forward, opened that up, and then read their speech. All of them did that, exactly the same thing. And the same thing, they're all very formal and lots of bowing. Every time someone said something, everybody bows. And we were sitting down at this stage, but everybody bows sitting down. And then they say, you know, welcome, and everybody bows. And they say, thank you very much for coming, and everybody bows. And at the end, he finished making his speech, everybody bows. And then he walks back and he bows to everybody, they bow. Then he bows to the other dignitaries, they bow. So really super, this is classic, super formal Japanese behaviour, you know. Very, very serious and solemn. And then, oh yeah, the kids, when they tell the kids sit down, stand up, it's just like the military. They'll say, stand up, and everybody, boom, and one big noise, boom, as they all stand up. Sit down, they all sit down. And start walking, and they all start walking. It's really military, really, really military. They drill it, they practice it. And then the kids went up and collected their certificates, their graduation certificates. And really formal, really, really formal. You might be looking at that right now. I was planning, I've got to be careful what I show from that event, but you might be looking at that right now. They go up and the principal hands them the paper and they bow deeply. Nobody smiles. Nobody smiles. Nobody makes a polite, like a friendly comment or a, oh good, well done, or a joke. You know, in the speeches are all super formal, super solemn. That's the feeling you get these events. Even the kindergarten one. I mean, today's was elementary school, but the kindergarten one, you know, kindergarten kids, and the behaviour is exactly the same. Very military, very rigid, very solemn, and very serious. And there's no light-hearted comments. There's no little jokes. There's no comic relief. You know, usually in events like that in other countries, somebody's going to make a funny speech or say something in their speech that's funny that'll get a laugh. Not one from beginning to end. You know, and then so the kids all get their certificates, and there's a few more speeches. Oh, probably the most human thing that happened was the grade 5 kids were sitting at the back, and they stood up at the end. After all the kids had got their certificates, the grade 5 kids stood up at the end and sang a really nice song for the grade 6 kids. And then the grade 6 kids sang a song which was really nice. And then at the end they all said goodbye to the school, sayonara, and the name of the school. And that was a bit touching. It's usually in those things, the adults are so solemn and boring and rigid and military, and the kids' behaviour is too. But usually the sweetness comes from the kids, because kids are kids, right? You can make kids behave like robots, but they're not robots, they're kids. And so usually the touching moments in those rigid, solemn events, usually it's the kids, and today it was too. When the grade 5 kids sung to the grade 6 kids, that was quite touching. And when the grade 6 kids sang their song and then said goodbye at the end, that was quite touching, you know. But again, you don't see a lot of emotion. You don't see parents, you know, with tears on their faces, except this one. The fat man had tears in his eyes, but the others you don't see. You don't see people, you know, tears in their eyes, dabbing at their cheeks or anything like that. Everything's very formal and very solemn. And then stand up, and that stand up was for all of us. So everybody stood up, the kids and the adults, everybody, just like military, stood up, great, you know, bow, everyone bowed. And then the dignitaries walked out in this very solemn procession out of the auditorium, right? And as they went past, everyone bowed to the dignitaries, to the important people, right? The class system, or whatever you call that, you know, from old Japan, it's still there. You know, you've got these important people. When they're introduced and spoken about, it's Sama, you know, it's Mr. Suzuki Sama, you know, who's, it's a very formal, very, you know, respected people. So anyway, they all left, and then the kids all left 2 at a time. That took a long time too, because it was the same thing in reverse. 2 at a time, they left, and then once they were all out, then the adults went outside, and then all the adults lined up. Had to go through the Genkan first, didn't we? Get our shoes, and then we went outside, and then all the adults lined up, and then all the kids came out and sort of formally walked past in a sort of procession past the parents, who were all there taking videos and photos, of course, with some with some ridiculously big cameras with ridiculously big lenses that you can't imagine would achieve much more than the camera that you're looking through right now, right? But that's just what they do. So yeah, it's striking, you know. As you can tell from what I'm saying, the solemnness is really striking. Every time, I've been to lots of these now. I've been to lots of these entrance ceremonies and graduation ceremonies, and you know, some for our kids and some for other relatives' kids. and it strikes me every time how uncomfortable everybody looks, how solemn everybody looks, how military it is, how military. Stand up, and everybody stands up. Sit down, everybody sits down. You know, that's what's really striking. That's what's really striking, and how, yeah, the solemnness of it. There's no lightheartedness at all. You know, not one lighthearted comment or lighthearted joke. No laughing, no smiling. It's just all really, really serious. You know, so I mean, the end. Finally, at the end, you know, they all came past the parents at the end, and the kids went round the back of the school, and then they are all, because they're not supposed to take cameras to school or phones to school, but of course today they did, and so they were all there taking photos of each other, and they you know, kids are kids. Kids are kids. That's always the nice bit, watching the kids. You know, they're all taking photos of each other and you know, lining up with each other and doing the peace signs and all the stuff that they do. So the kids of course are always the sweet thing in those sort of things, you know. But it's striking how the military precision of it all, you know, and they're always the same. They're always the same. I've never been to one and been surprised, because it's always exactly the same. You know, they have these. That's how they do it, and that's how they do it. And very, very serious. So no doubt, I know some of the people watch our videos live in Japan and have kids and would have experienced this themselves. So they'll be sitting there nodding, going, "Yeah, how serious is that?" It really is. The suit. So I haven't put the suit away because it's not over yet, because, you know, when your kids graduate from elementary school, they then have to go to the entrance ceremony for junior high school. And that's the same. We've been sent the map for that too. Here's where you can sit, and here's where you can do this, and here's where you can do this, and these people sit here and those people sit here, and it's all really serious and already regimented. You know, you must be here at this time and go at this time and go then do this and then do that. So anyway, it's interesting. It is interesting. I'm sitting there watching it thinking, oh, this is a video, you know. There were actually, like, pretty much, you know, I always say in these videos that there are always exceptions, right? So all the ladies had their suits, their lady suits on, or their kimono on, and all the dudes had their suits on, and it was all very formal, except one couple. One couple came in, and the dude had sort of a checkered Conor McGregor. If anybody knows Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter, the suits he wears with the checks on them. One dude came in with a suit like that, and his wife, the mother, was wearing cosplay school uniform style thing. It was a blazer and with a blouse underneath and a short tartan skirt, really short tartan skirt, and she had blue hair. So she looked like a cosplay school student, right? So that's sort of that's what they normally wear when they're not really school students, but they want to look like one. She wore that to the graduation, and it was amazing because everybody's wearing exactly the same. When those two walked in, you could see everybody, because Japanese people don't, it's not cool, there's nobody points and nobody sort of says, hey, look at that, right? But you can see subtly, really subtly, everyone's sort of turning and sort of gently looking over, and then sort of catching each other's eyes and going, holy dooly. You can see all these women raising their eyes like, I can't believe she wore that. You know, what's she wearing that for? It was pretty funny. Why would you wear that in any country? Why would a mother dress in a school uniform to go to a kid's graduation? It was pretty weird. That was weird. That was another thing I looked at and thought, geez, there's a video. Couldn't take a picture of that though, it would have been too much. Pulling the camera out and videoing that would have been too much, wouldn't it? So anyway, Denny's, it's time for a sandwich. After work and before work, between jobs. Anyway, there was that. So yes, graduation ceremonies and entrance ceremonies in Japan. I've got 3 more to do in the next couple of weeks, so the suit's not going to be put away, it's going to be hanging on a hanger. Anyway, that's enough of that. More videos coming soon.